Welcome to Nara's Method podcast. Our today's guest is Laura Luget, who is coach and mentor to parents of special needs children. Welcome, Laura. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a minute.
Thank you for
but
having me.
I would like to give introduction to you. And we've met I think 6 years ago, and you were my coach and mentor for a year. I was going through very tough time at that point of time. I just gone through divorce, and then I was at, I didn't know what to do with my career. I didn't know how life is going to look like, and you were mentoring me through that phase of my life, which I'm very grateful to you because wherever I am right now, I always give credits to you because of the job that we have done together, how you were mentoring me, and how you were supporting me along the way. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I'm very, very proud of you. Look at you now.
Thank you. And now I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us more about what do you do now, because I know that you had some career change, and tell us more about what do you do now and what you're specializing in.
So 5, 6 years ago, that was in between then and now, I gave birth to a little boy, Alexander, who was born with a genetic condition called cri du chat, or cry of the cat in English. 5p minus syndrome is the medical term that we use. And it's where his chromosome number 5 is partially deleted. And that causes physical and mental delayed development. So the 5 years has been my life, or my work has become my life. And when we first met, I was in the luxury hospitality space as a learning and development specialist. That's where I gained my communication skills, or my talents, as I like to call them, or gifts, and became an executive coach and became a mentor as well. So, since stepping into this space of inclusion and the special needs and the neurodivergent child world, I've been looking at what can I bring from that career into this space, because if I had someone like myself when I first started, and this is why what I really am interested in doing is working with parents of children with special needs, especially at the beginning of their journey. If I had someone like me who could guide me the way that I needed, maybe the last 5 years would have been different. Maybe it would have been the same. But for sure, I want to be of service to all parents, but especially those parents.
As a society, we're not very educated on the special needs of the children or even adults. And there are some disabilities that we're able to see and some disabilities that we're not able to see. And I think those are much harder to spot and even to diagnose most of the time. What would you advise for people who just got the news? And what are some coping techniques that you use right now, or you think that would have been very helpful for you to use them when you just got the news?
Well, first, when I take myself back, I'll tell you how I coped or didn't cope. And I think getting news like this is beyond shocking. It rocks your world. Here I had plans for which school, which languages, the kind of activities we would do. And, it's your world is shooken. And that's okay. What I tended to do, or what I did very well, was I masked, I hid, I escaped into work, and that that was okay as well, because you don't know what you don't know. Now I know better. The first thing I would say to parents who are in that position is breathe. We need to take a pause, we need to breathe. It helps. Even till today, there are things that continue to happen, things that unfold in our lives as a special needs family, diagnoses that will continue to come. And as Alessandro grows, as our child grows, things will definitely come up and probably will never stop coming up. And the first step is to breathe. And I like to call it, how do we build our bravery? How do we find the courage? And that's the first thing. And then once you get there, there are other things that can come along depending on the situation. But wherever you're at and whatever it is that you're doing, it's okay. And it's important to remember that.
Acceptance. When does it come?
It comes when we're ready. And I'll be very frank, it took me a couple of years. And unfortunately, because of that, it affected my performance at work. The same place I was escaping into. So I had some red flags and I ignored them. And it was only when things got really bad that I had to really stop and do exactly what I just shared, breathe and find the courage and accept where I am or I was at that point. And once we do that, I felt that I was able to think what comes next. How can I deal? What needs to happen? Because I think one of the things I've learned is the importance of finding this limitless kind of well somewhere inside of us of our resources. We need to tap into ourselves, our most resourceful self, I like to call it. How do we tap into our most resourceful self? And as parents, whether you are a parent of a neurodivergent or a neurotypical kids, normal children, we want to give our children what we never had.
Yes.
And that means whether it doesn't matter what kind of children you have and their development stage or growth, we find things that we don't have. We find our resources, right? So that's the next thing. So once we accept, we find our resources, and then we can move into action.
Was masking. You were saying that you were masking. Why are you saying that? Were you did you have a feeling? Did you know it, or were you in denial?
It's so interesting because even before birth, I was doing everything right. I'm an older mummy. I gave birth when I was 40. And because both my parents have diabetes, we were very much conscious of what I ate and the possibility of developing gestational diabetes. So, if you speak to my gynecologist, she would say I was one of her best examples of a pregnant mummy. Going in, I did everything I needed to do. And I had all these preconceptions, and I would always hope for a baby, a healthy baby, 10 fingers, 10 toes. And when Alessandra was born, and I had the apps, many
Yeah.
of us are using the apps. Your child should be doing this, do this with them. And those things weren't happening. That's when I began to suspect. And then when I started speaking up and saying this might be happening, even to doctors, even to professionals, they were saying, kids develop differently.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, only when a pediatric physiotherapist said, this is not normal, and he was 1 year old, have you considered investigating? It was at that point that she confirmed what I was feeling. And thankfully, she was able to direct me into, or send me in the direction that I needed to investigate and to figure out. And Alessandra was actually diagnosed very early, considering, and that has been a blessing. But I think the masking came because of our programming as a society. Never before had I been around or in close proximity to a family with special needs, much less even dare to think that I was a family with special needs. So I was hiding in denial, I guess, up to a certain extent. And exactly what you just said, at what point do you accept? The minute I accepted, which was probably when that professional said something to me that I had to Get into action.
How do we as moms, which doctors and who helped you diagnose it, and what did you do? What was the action plan like? Because till 1 year you knew there's something off, but you didn't have any clear direction. So what do we as moms need to do to diagnose those things earlier? And we were having a discussion about girls hiding and masking, like autism, for example, and ADHD. So, but we moms know, as you said. How do we moms know, and what do we do when we know?
So, one of the things we learn in neuroscience is we have more than one brain. We have the one on top and the enteric system, the gut. Trust our gut. And with today's technology and the amount and the flood of information that is available, I'm going to tell you something that the doctors will tell you don't do. Do your research. Find out what it might be. What are the things that are presenting themselves? Have conversations. Speak to other mums. In coaching, we're learning that there's more than one brain in the body, the one in our head and the one down below, our gut. Trust your gut instinct. And if the professionals, like they did with me, said, oh, nothing is wrong, wait, even family members were saying, oh, we can't, they take time. Each child is different. Collect your data. And not just what you see in front of you with today's technology and the flood of information available. Read, educate yourself. Be aware of exactly what you just said, that girls tend to hide or mask their neurological conditions or their situations more so than boys. Speak to other mums. Find groups online. I'm telling you all this stuff that maybe a doctor or a mother-in-law will tell you, no, don't trust people outside. But I'm telling you, trust yourself. Gather. We make better decisions when we have information. And get your data, get your own information.
You were saying, what is the percentage of disabled people in the world?
15% of the world's population are disabled. And these are the diagnosed. Imagine those that are not. And right now, in the United Kingdom, there is a whole story, or there's something going on around the ADHD. There's a lot of self-diagnosis going on, autism as well. And we have to remember that in some countries, it takes years to get a diagnosis. Here in the UAE, we're quite lucky because we have access, yes. Many times we may have to pay for it, but we have access to many services out there. So this is the thing. 15% of the world's population disabled, both physical and neurological.
And that's just diagnosed. So imagine if in the countries where they don't even have access to that and they don't have knowledge about it.
Or even in countries where they have access. Look at that.
Yeah.
It goes undetected.
Because we tend to, ignore it, or like...
There's also the stigma around it. There is also a stigma around it. Many parents my age that I talk to, when we think of autism, the only reference we might have is, I don't know, you might be too young, Rain Man, the movie with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first images of autism that came out. And it terrified many people. Since then, we've had people like Temple Grandin, who, there was a movie with, I think it was Hilary Swank, who did the story of her life. And she was in Dubai recently. She went on to become a very successful, doctor. And also on the side of that, it became a huge advocate for the autistic community.
Because there are different levels of it, right?
It's a spectrum.
It's
absolutely a spectrum.
So it not necessarily means that it's, the person is going to not be able to do anything.
Well, this is something also very interesting. And that's why accepting and actioning as early as possible. Some schools of thought is as early as possible, early intervention.
Yeah.
So in Alessandra's case, for example, there is no treatment, there are no drugs for Cri du Chat. And how we deal with it is early intervention. And I liken it to him being a professional athlete. Professional athletes are born with a certain body or certain biological conditions that make them ideal for their sport. But it's only with constant training and, mindset that they get to where they are. If you look at the most successful athletes in the world, and sometimes I look at him and all the therapy that he does, and I'm like, he has more courage and more tenacity and more stamina than even myself. So I think that's something very important to bear in mind as well.
Do you think that when you accept it, then you actually accepting it, I think, is a big step to it, right? And then once you accept it, you actually then do something that will help the child?
Well, here's a little secret. I accept it, and then there are times when I unaccept it.
Yeah.
Every time something new comes up, I'm like, but here's the thing with acceptance. There are things that I might need to accept, but there are also things I need to not accept. Limitations. I need to not accept sometimes that I want something, but he doesn't want it or he can't handle it. I need to back off a bit. I have to not accept my own expectations. But going back to your question is because of the acceptance, I'm able to look at the situation or reframe what's in front of me and become quite creative in some of the solutions that we've attempted or tried, and also to accept that those things might or mightn't work. So acceptance is a huge plethora of things that I consider.
Because there are new things that are coming up that sets you back a little bit in acceptance, and
Yes.
it's as so that's something that I would like to know, and I think lots of people don't know how to act around it, what to do, and what do we do as a society, as a friend, as a family member, to support somebody who is going through what you're going through. And I don't think it's coming from us not caring. I think it's coming from us not knowing how to behave. And I'm going to speak for myself. I don't know how to behave around it. I don't know what can I do to make you feel better, or what can I do to support you and to help you through this journey that you're going through.
You just did it. You just asked the question, what can I do to support you better? And many times, if you had known me or I had shared with you what was going on 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'd say, oh no, nothing, I'm fine. And then you come back later on and ask again and say, I am seeing this. What can I do to support you? And this is the thing. There is no right way or wrong way. And then it depends on how frustrated or where the parent or the child is at emotionally. There is something that we call, regulating, self-regulating, co-regulating. I think as parents, we are mindful of co-regulating with our child when they cannot self-regulate, which means bring themselves or calm themselves down or get out of a very hot situation. And I think being friends or family members of, neurodivergent children or people in general, because we have many adults, it's just being there. And then when you get a response that maybe you don't expect or you don't like, just accept. And don't leave us alone. Come back again, visit us again, and check in on us. And I think it takes courage on your side. And it's quite interesting because even though I have a child who stims quite a lot when he has sensory needs. So stimming means flapping of arms or head butting or moving your body in such a way. And even neurotypical people, we stim.
Yeah.
We click our pens, we shake our legs, we bite our nails, or, these are just behaviors that everybody
does that.
We do
Yeah.
to seek sensory relief.
Yeah.
And when you see something like that happening, or a meltdown, which is when a child's sensory system goes into overload, and you don't know what to do. Do I help? Do I not? If the mummy looks she doesn't know what to do, what can I do to help? She might, or maybe daddy is there, because I see usually dads come in and help sometimes. They're able to handle it themselves, and they might say, no, no, leave me alone. I'm okay. That's okay. But if you feel obliged to ask, how can I help you? That's okay. And I thank you in advance for choosing to do that, because it takes courage to do that.
It's important. I think it's important for others to know how to behave, because I find it very, when you're in an airplane and there's a baby crying, I always tend to, try to help the mom, or try to, sometimes when I look at the mom and I feel like, snatching the baby and telling you, okay, let me help you, just like calm down and let me help you. And I think it's the same scenario when you are seeing something like this happening in front of you, but you don't know how to behave. And then you don't know if the parent is going to be, I think it takes from us to actually accept whatever response we're going to get. And that's the only reason why I would maybe restrain from asking, because then in the situation when it's happening in front of me, I would restrain from asking, because sometimes it's happening and then you're scared also, like, to get, some kind of rejection, or somebody will be like, just leave me alone, it's none of your business. But I think we as a society need to accept that it's all right to get an answer like this as well, because the person is going through something. It takes a lot of awareness from us to react to it, like nothing is happening, and it's okay to get this answer, and it's okay to get an answer where the person actually will tell you, you know what, yes, you can help me, come here and I'm going to tell you what to do, and come here and I'll tell you how to help me. Because at this situation, if you're not going through the same journey in your life, you don't know how to help either.
And it goes back to the exact question, not can I help you, because you'll either get a yes or no.
Yeah.
How can I help? Because that triggers our brain to start searching for what are things that this person can do to help. I'll tell you a story about the first time I traveled with Alexander, 29 hours to the Caribbean, to Trinidad. And I had just gotten through Gatwick, through the immigration, and realized when I got to the gate that I had left half of his water bottles, the formula bottles, in the security scan, because I was hustling to get to the gate on time. And imagine what state I was in with this baby. I'm unregulated, stressed out, panicking, and don't know what to do, and thinking, okay, what do I have? How am I going to feed this baby on the plane? And a woman came up to me and said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm actually a mum as well. How can I help? And I looked at her in shock. And she probably was like, she said, let me hold Ali. The doors are closed. We're not going to go anywhere. And I'll take him for a walk. And that kind act, I surprised myself. I handed him over. And she went for a walk. And it so happened that her boss, who was in the first class, that was his first trip to first class, was a grandmother of 5 children. And by the time she came back, 5 minutes later, I had settled everything. I was breathing. And he was calm. And I was calm. And we were able to strap in and take off. And just by that little act of kindness, when I look back, she had the confidence because she had been there. And I suspect you would, in your story, when you look at the mum or the dad who might need help and you want to help, it's because you're a mum as well. So you have the experience. You've handled children before. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Don't be shy.
Right.
Yeah. And it's all right. No matter what you get back, it's all right.
Yes, because you see the panic and you feel the panic of the person next to you, and you know that you've been in this situation so many times, and the only thing you want is for people not to be bothered. And actually, as a mom at this point of time, when you're in this situation, you are actually more embarrassed rather than anything. Embarrassment on top of the panic, but it's and all of it is mixed, and then you look around and you feel like, oh my god, everyone is judging me, and everyone is, just want me to stop all this, whatever is happening. So I think as a mom, when you see that situation in front of you, you just want to, what the other person is feeling, so you just want to jump in and try
You put
to
yourself in their shoes and you know
to
how
make
it
it better,
feels. Absolutely.
to make it lighter. Obviously, there are so many challenges that are coming with it. I want us to focus on a beauty in it, and I want you to tell me, what are the things that you find beautiful in it?
The first thing that comes to mind is the stories of parents when I first gave birth who said to me, it's going to go by so time flies. When you have children, they grow up so quickly. And I have to make those people jealous, because for me, it doesn't. For me, I look out for every single milestone, every single full sentence, moving from pointing or one word, water, to I want water, to can I have water, please? I savor those moments. I savor the times when right now he can't run like other kids or jump. We're practicing. His version of jumping is kind of bending his knees and bouncing a bit. But I'm looking forward to the day when he will jump. So the beauty of our journey is I get to savor it completely. Another thing that comes to mind is that I'm learning so much about myself. And I was saying to someone this very morning, this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And I have found that when I reframe things, when I'm down and when I'm like, oh, like you say, how can I flip it to find the beauty? Maybe my gift is I'm an eternal optimist, something about being born in the Caribbean under the sunshine. I don't know. But that's what gets me through the days. Searching for the silver linings. What is a beautiful part of this right here, right now? And every day I find something beautiful.
When you're saying it happened for me, I want you to elaborate on that and tell me, what do you mean by that?
One of the things that Ali brings to me is self-awareness. As we discussed earlier, I have something where I call it building my bravery, finding the courage. I'm somebody who came from a little Caribbean island, lived on various continents. I've traveled the world. I've worked in 30 cities. And I thought, hey, at one point in time, I had an Indiana Jones time of life where, there were bombings that happened in London or in Egypt when I lived there. There was a fire. I lived through the tsunami. And I thought I had courage. But since I became the mother of Alexander Hafiz, that has 10x'd. And it's in little acts that I'm finding myself every day. This awareness, this acceptance that we were talking about earlier comes from a place of self-awareness. And I think, okay, as a coach, we hold space for others, but I'm learning to hold space for myself, especially coming from the career that I had before, where levels of service, standards, etc. I'm the first one to beat myself up when things don't go right. I'm the president of the Perfectionist Club. Perfectionist Anonymous, all welcome. And what I'm learning on this journey is to be an imperfect parent. And that is an art in itself.
I think that's the most difficult part of it, isn't it? To be imperfect parent, to accept that we all are not perfect and we do mistakes. We don't know, especially, I think regardless of how many kids you have, every child is different
Absolutely.
and every child takes you to a different journey. And when you know that, when you think that you already nailed it and you know it, they throw something else at you and you're
They help
like,
us become true
oh,
masters. Mastery is something that we never achieve, by
no,
the way. We
never.
never. And I'll be honest, even if you're not a parent, if you're an auntie or an uncle, you see it. You see it there.
They always surprise you with something. And they always challenge us. They always create some new ways of challenging us, whether they know it or not.
They are creative like that.
They are very creative, and we are not prepared for it.
But life would be boring. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the speaker was saying that human beings, we like and we need and we crave new things.
Yeah.
It was a discussion about what is the difference between the science of achievement and the art of purpose. You know, if I look at our story, I've had a very successful career. I've achieved quite a lot in terms of my previous 25 years of work. And this speaker on the podcast was saying, do what you were made to do. And these beautiful days and these creative, moments that we have are making me realize that I was born to be the mother of this child. And this child was born to be my child.
Yeah.
So we fit together, and my purpose is around this.
Yeah. You're the best mother that he ever gonna get. That's it.
As are you to yours as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As are you
That's
to
once we
yours.
accept that,
Hmm.
that it's meant for us, and we have to make best out of it.
Yes. And we always have another day, another opportunity to do better. Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's every day you get this new opportunity to do it. And how does the society, how does the it's something I was wondering, because we have all kinds of mom groups, we have all kind of parent groups. Is there special groups for that you can connect with other moms? Is there any like society in UAE, or maybe an online society that you are part of, or that you came across that would help other parents?
The beauty of being human beings, and I think this might have something to do with the couple of years we just came through, is that we're born to be part of a tribe. We're born to belong to something. And again, going back to the beauty of technology, whether it's in your neighborhood, in your city, in your country, or even online in cyberspace, there are many support groups. And I'll be very honest, not every group will fit me or fit you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it goes back to this data gathering exercise of what fits for me, what works for me even right now. Maybe the groups that I'm in now may not be of benefit to me in a couple of years' time. So it's a human instinct, it's human nature to find and magnetize to others. So this is one of the biggest things. And believe it or not, it was only until late into my journey that I found support groups. My preference tends to be WhatsApp. And I found WhatsApp groups right here in my city. There are many online groups as well, Facebook, podcasts, information gathering, articles, organizations that offer support and offer help. You just need to find them. And sometimes it's not even you going there, they find you. So open your heart, open your mind, send out a manifestation to the universe. I need help, and it will arrive. And accept. Try it on when it arrives.
Would you say it was would you say it was hard for you to join a group? And when you joined a society and a group, did it become easier?
So the first, my nature is I am an extreme extrovert. So my first instinct was jump in and chat a lot. And then I found myself joining other groups, and my energy and my steam was less. And then I realized sometimes it depends. It depends on the energy of the group, the synergy of the group. I purposefully limit the amount of groups that I'm on. I may join and choose to step off if it's not my scene. One of the things I've learned to do is recognize and create my own boundaries for my own peace of mind. Find support where it can be of true support. So, and we all have different personalities. And the beauty of some of these groups is there's always somebody like me who's very chatty. Somebody asks the question, and we get energy from answering the question again and again. And then you have some people who are very quiet. But one of the things I really enjoy in some of the groups that I have is if it is that what I say or what I ask for is respected and there is like a ring fence and I feel secure, I would be more active.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there are times when I see exactly as you say, I can reach out to other parents on the group privately and say, this is what has worked for me. I don't know if it helps, but there you go. And they appreciate that because some people are very quiet
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah, naturally, and then they would be more shy to
as
reach
well.
out for help. So
As well.
I find groups and society, like small communities, very helpful
Mm.
because sometimes I don't necessarily ask the question, but then I see somebody else asking the question, and then I don't need to ask the question myself, but then I see the question is there and people are answering. So that helps me much more than me. I didn't even know I need it, for example. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I didn't even know that it exists till
Mm.
somebody else asked the question. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I needed all my life long. So I find being like, for me, as a parent, I find it nice to be in those groups because it helps me with so many things that I didn't even know I needed, or so many things I wouldn't notice that
Mm.
are there. So awareness, I think, is the big, big thing here because we are not aware of those things.
True. That's
So the
true.
more you talk, the more you share your journey, the more everybody around knows what you're going through and what is it, what to look out for, and how to deal with it, right?
Absolutely. You're right. And this leads to something that pops up for me right now. One of the things I've found works for me is choosing consciously. Going back to boundaries or no boundaries, this awareness and getting information and data. Sometimes a group, I learn more than if I go troll the internet and look for articles. Sometimes in a group, because these are women or men who are in my position, I trust more than a very educated and renowned doctor or professional, medical professional. So the beauty is I get to choose. And once I'm conscious of this helps me accept whatever comes afterwards.
Because it's real humans with real experiences, and you can relate.
Yes.
You can relate, and makes it more acceptable even to take their point of view or to try whatever they have done.
Yes. Yeah, because
And
if it
it's
doesn't work and I go back and I say, oh, that didn't work, somebody else might pipe up and say, it didn't work for us either, but we tried this instead. And that's something I really like about the support groups that I've been privileged to join is that I can be myself because we're all in this same situation that even when I need to rant or it's frustrating. And I think statistically, in some of the research I've been seeing about the internet and social media, people are moving away from, going down and scrolling down news feeds to finding community where are people like myself that can resonate and I can be myself with them. And so that's the beauty of what we're seeing with a lot of content creators these days.
Yeah. What is the biggest challenge? If you would choose one biggest challenge, what is it?
Getting out of my own way. Me, me. And whether it's an ego thing, whether it's a programming, the way we grew up, our environment thing. As a parent, I'm responsible for this innocence, well being, upbringing, etc. And sometimes I get in my own way. I get in my own way. So I burn out. I don't choose consciously. I don't take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even set expectations. Or I have expectations that are unrealistic. And the good thing about that is that I can affect that. I can affect me. I can change those things about me. And I have noted that when I catch myself and I'm able to move myself out of my own way, things kind of flow
How do you spot it? How do you know?
through strife when things are just not working, when I want something and it's not happening, or even when I'm looking at what's happening at home. When the waves are rough, when things are not going smoothly, that's usually when I spot it. And I think the more I become aware and the more I can see it before it happens and choose to change what it is I am doing. I'm responsible for my own actions. I can't be responsible for anyone else's, not even Alessandra's. In Trinidad, we have a saying, you make the child, you don't make their mind.
Yeah. So true.
Right. And Dr. Shefali talks about conscious parenting. It's related to that as well. You know, so I think as adults, as human beings, we are in charge of ourselves and we're the only ones who can change us.
So the air and atmosphere that we have in the house is we set it.
Yeah.
We set it as
We're
adults.
part of the equation, you know? What do you need to make fire? You need fuel, you need oxygen, and you need a combustant. You need something to start the fire. If you take one out, the whole equation changes. And if I'm part of that equation and I'm able to step back and say, okay, what can I do differently? And when I do choose to do differently, the situation changes.
If you were to give an advice or if you were to, let's say, one takeaway, few takeaways from all this conversation and whatever we're discussing, what would you tell parents? Parents, or maybe even people who are watching that are not going through a situation, but they know someone around them or they don't have any idea. What is it?
We're all human beings, and we can choose how to be, irregardless of where you stand in the equation, in the environment. And as I said a little bit earlier, we're in charge of ourselves. So it all starts right here. What do you choose to be?
Awareness again, right? How aware we are on how conscious and aware we are on what we are doing and how we are reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. That was, for me, that was very educational. There are many things that you were mentioning that I had no idea how you feel or how other parents feel, but there are many things that you're mentioning that I can very much relate to as well, because children are children and they're all going through tantrums, they're all going through similar experiences, regardless of conditions that they have or no conditions that they have. But it's us as parents and us as a society, we need to be more conscious about all these different scenarios that people may have. And sometimes when we're seeing a baby crying too much, we might get, like if we don't have kids, we get annoyed by, like, oh, why is this baby outside crying this much, like, and airplane situations again. But I think we as a society need to be a bit more aware on why the baby may cry and why maybe parent doesn't know how to stop it. So thank you for making us, for giving us a bit more insight on the different scenarios that you may be in or I may be in, and we don't know how to necessarily give, a lecture in the situation to other people, and to stop we're not in a movie to stop everyone and tell them, okay, I'm going to give you a brief about what's happening right now. So I find talking about it is very important, because then it educates us, and it also gives other parents, a break, and it gives them also courage to reach out for help when they need help, and or like ask for help, because it's okay to ask as well. It's actually very important to ask, because you might step out of it and you don't want to, like to keep asking, how can I help, how can I help? But then sometimes if you ask, people just are eager to help.
No, and you're completely right. And thank you. Thank you for holding this space to allow others to share and help other people become aware of whatever it is they need to learn, because different people will hear this or will look at this and will take different things away. And the fact that one of the things, or one of the key things that I keep hearing today, is about awareness and the use. And I'm so pleased that we're able to use this medium. You can see us, so you can hear us here, and choose to take what you like. So thank you as well, Nara, for holding this space.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.